How do folks, David here with another video, and it's not so much a finished product this time, it is more of a techniques one. I did promise you this one a little while back, and I am gradually getting through all of those videos that I promised you. We're going to be talking about lighting effects. Now it is a little bit more of an advanced technique, but it is one of those things where it's actually quite easy to do and it really does make your models pop. Now you have seen me use lighting before. I did it on the big volcano lair for the dragon. That was on a very large scale. And I did it on a really small scale with a campfire. But it doesn't matter whether it's set pieces like that or whether or not, you're just illuminating the inside of a building. It is something that, really just does add a little bit to your model. And the reason why I'm getting it out of the way now is because I'm going to be doing a lot more sci-fi in the very near future. And realistically, you need lighting for that kind of thing. So let's not faff about, let's get straight on into kit bashing a lighting rig for you. Right, let's crack into it. So obviously you can reuse LEDs from old Christmas lights or things like that. There's some pros and cons to that. I decided to get some new. This was a bag of assorted colours, 100 of them all told. Got them from Temu and it worked out at about 1 cent US or 1 pence UK per LED. So yeah, that's me, last of the big spenders. Right, just like batteries, LEDs have a positive and a negative. How can you tell them apart? Well, the easy way is to just do a quick double check, and this is a coin battery I've got here. And if I try it in one direction, it works. If I try it in the other, it doesn't. Okay, dead simple. Fresh out of the packet, you can tell by the length of the legs. One leg is always longer than the other. And that is the positive side. Why is it positive? Well, there's more leg, therefore there's plus. That's the easy way to remember it. If, however, you have reclaimed them from something else and the legs have been snipped, I'll actually show you a picture of it, but on the side there is, on the negative, a flat part, and because flat looks like a minus sign when you draw it out, that's how you know it's the negative. Now, the other thing that you have to remember, apart from wiring up in the right direction, is what voltage battery you are using. Now, a coin battery here is 3 volts. This is a button cell battery, and this is only 1.55 volts. And if I try that, nothing happens. And just to double check, still nothing happens. Okay, an LED needs, depending on the colour, somewhere between 1.7 and 3 volts to actually work. So that one's fine, that one's not. However, if you take two 1.5 volt batteries like these, nice and dirt cheap, join them together, you get 3 volts. Same as this, and way cheaper. The thing is, we need some way of getting these to work together, so let's make a quick and dirty battery pack from stuff that you've got around the house. Right, assortment of materials that every crafter should have. Pair of scissors. We're going to be using hot glue and super glue. We've got some scrap card. That is going to be the main body of our battery pack. I have also got some aluminium foil. And this is just a scrap of foam rubber. And you'll see what I use that for shortly. So, first thing we want is to get the size of the holder, and I want roughly the size of the battery pack there and there. And I'm also going to cut out what is going to be essentially a baseboard for it. We can trim it down to size later, but that's the bit we're going to construct it on. Right, 2 batteries like that. Fold it up, just make sure those creases are nice and crisp, and then we will hold that vertical, and I'm just going to tack it in the middle there with a big splotch of hot glue. Make sure it stands upright, and then do the same for the other side. Tack it in the middle. Test for our batteries, and they're sitting in there quite nicely. Good. Next bit we want is a piece at the back, and we want about that width, and we want a fold like that, because that will slide into there like that to make an end. Run some super glue there, and then we are going to get some of our silver foil, and we want it shiny side up, not the dull side. pop that in place like that. Just tear that excess bit off there, fold it over, and we'll give it a couple of wraps around, glue it on the back, trim that excess off, and then that slots in place like that and gets held there with some hot glue. Yeah, that's all looking good. Alright, I'll take the opportunity now to trim the excess off. Now what I'm going to do, around the back side, I am going to put hot glue all the way around the base, just to make that more solid, and around the bottom corner, just so that that back part is no longer flapping. And don't worry too much about what it looks like. Like I said, this is a very cheap and nasty way of doing it. Now we want the front terminal, and I want a piece like that, and I want to mark that's about the height, and I want it a little bit longer. Nice fold like that, so that will slot in like that. And this is where the foam comes in. Normally on a battery terminal you would have springs to keep tension on the battery and on the connection, and because we are not shelling out for springs, we are going to use some foam instead. And I want two little pads like that. Dot there, pad there, pad there. And you will note that I have left deliberately a gap between them. Just make sure that they are stuck there. And what I want is a run of hot glue down the centre, and I want it quite tall, because that is going to basically form a bridge, or a wall rather, between the two terminals, so that wires don't cross. You should hopefully see it just sitting a bit proud there like that. And now that that is set, we'll use super glue and a wee splodge on there, and we'll bend that back, pop that into place. Alright, okay, now we will finish off the reinforcement, and what I want is a line of hot glue around the bottom, on there and on there, and I also want a line around the top edge, so like that, bridge around that gap. So I've now got a nice channel around the middle, which is of a lower profile than the other stuff, and I want the same just on the top edge there. And I also want a wee line, not at the very bottom, up a little bit, because we do want that to open just on that end piece. And then once that's dry, the final piece of the puzzle, you can use an elastic band. This is a hair tie. I go for these because they're a little bit less harsh than an elastic band, and that just slips into the groove all the way around like that. And that's our battery compartment, nice and tight. And then we can just pop our batteries in like that. 1 and 2. And here is the acid test. Pop that in. That, my friends, is a viable battery pack. MacGyver, eat your heart out. And to turn it off, that's all you do. Now comes the fun part. Okay, we've got to wire up this LED. Now, this is probably the point at which a lot of you will be saying, oh, look, this is beyond my skill level because it involves soldering and things like that. No, it doesn't. Yes, soldering is the correct way to do it, but there are fast and dirty hacks, and you do have the tools for it. Now, obviously, you need the LED. You need some tools. I've got pointy nose pliers, and I've got some wire cutters. I'm keeping the hot glue gun out, and we need an amount of wire. Now, you can reclaim this from stuff around the house, you know, an old broken wired mouse or something like that. And yes, it is best to have 2 different coloured wires, but if you're reclaiming it, you may not get that. Let's have 2 lengths of wire like that. Okay, stripping wire. Don't use a knife, you'll cut yourself. Wrap it around your finger, get your snips. You want the sort of curved part of your snip towards your hand. You want the flat part away from you. And just gently grip and then pull like that, and it strips. And then give that a good twist. I'll do the other ends. Okay, 2 bits of wire stripped at both ends. both looped. Now, I used to do this stuff as an apprentice, and this is how I was taught how to do it. The first thing that you need to do is make sure that you have a good mechanical joint. So we are going to take that and we are going to bend it like that. Same on the other side. Now this is something that you won't see the other crafters doing. They try and join them sort of end to end with solder, okay, and that is not the best way to go about it. Then pop that through halfway, bend it down, keep a tight hold and twizzle like so, and then that, there you go, there's your join, and then really crimp that end, and then, and this makes a good insulator, we're just going to hold it in place with some hot glue. And if you are worried about those wires in the middle touching, you can either bend them apart or you can just fill that gap with hot glue, because as I say, it is rubberized, it is an insulator. I'll put a wee bit on the other side like this. There you are, no soldering required. Now to connect it to the battery, and I bend that round and I twizzle it a bit. So I've left a wee bit flat at the end. Pop the terminal onto the negative because that's the easy one. Pop the terminal onto the positive. Bob's your auntie. That's one wired up LED. There you go. One quick, fast, dirty, no soldering required battery pack and wired LED. Your next question is going to be, but what if I want more than one of them? Well, there are other videos out there that show you how to do the proper electronics and run them in series and parallel, but essentially the easiest way to do it with this setup is, before you put the glue on there, run another string like this. You don't attach them in a line like that, okay, so it's from there, pair to pair to pair, and you can run multiples off the same battery pack. Just bear in mind that when you do that, you are going to run your batteries out far quicker because you're powering more lights, okay? If you do end up trying to put them in a string, the way I told you not to, then your battery pack is not going to be powerful enough and you'll get maybe two, if that, and then they'll just stop working because each one in the line needs its own allotment of voltage in order to work. And it is as simple as that. Well, I made it look simple. Yes, I've had some practice, but it doesn't take that much practice to get it right. All you've got to do is work out how you're going to integrate it into your models. And like I say, there are other creators out there that have done far more in-depth videos on how to do proper lighting rigs and add resistance and all the electrics behind it. They are well worth a watch. I'll leave some links in the description down below for ones that I think you may find helpful. Well, that about wraps it up for another video from me. If there's something you want to see me cover in the future, whether it's a particular project or a genre, pop a note in the comment section down below, let me know what you're after. If you're new around here, please consider hitting the subscribe button, like the video if you did, and if you really liked it, then there's another suggested one just there for you to have a look at. Either way, I'll see you guys in a little bit, or in a few seconds if you do watch that one. Toodle pip!